What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Crypto for You. Today I want to talk about Bitcoin because Bitcoin has just done something insane. In the last 2 days, we have had a 8% pump to the upside, taking us all the way up to $72,000. This is important because we are now reaching the previous all-time high that Bitcoin did in March of 2024. That was at $74,000. And this means that Bitcoin could be perhaps reaching the next step in its bull market plan, the next phase of the bull market, which could take Bitcoin at really high targets. I want to talk about what this phase is, what Bitcoin is entering, and where we could go. I want to talk about all that and more in this video, so stick around. Let's get straight into the video. Starting off with, just want to explain where Bitcoin is right now and why I believe this price action right here could start the beginning of Bitcoin's pump to the upside. Number one, well, if we look at the technical analysis, if we just look at the chart patterns, we can see that Bitcoin is breaking out of this big chart pattern, this falling broadening wedge, this bull flag, as some call it. And this is just a continuation pattern. Bitcoin has been going up. If we go and zoom out on Bitcoin, look at its bull market cycle, what we can see is that Bitcoin, after falling down from 70,000 down to 15,000, has been going up really, really fast with almost no stop. And now, for over 7 weeks now, has been just falling down. And a lot of people thought that this meant that this is the start of the bear market and we were going to start having a bear market, but no, not at all. This is just a reaccumulation phase. Bitcoin has been going up and losing momentum because we went up so fast. And so we need to reaccumulate some time, some pressure before we can spike up and have the next part of the bull market. And that's exactly what's going on here. And that's exactly what I think is about to happen. We're breaking out to the upside. Now, what's interesting is that this is also a bull flag. So we can use and calculate this bull flag to see where Bitcoin could go. A conservative estimate of where Bitcoin could go is calculated from this local bottom to this local top and could take Bitcoin to around $92,000. Yes, 92,000. That's the minimum of where Bitcoin could go. What percentage is this? This is around a 30% gain. But where else could we calculate it from? We could also calculate it from 15,000 from the bottom. Even though this is a really, really rough estimate, we could take Bitcoin to $114,000. So Bitcoin is, by the looks of it, breaking out of this huge pattern that could take it all the way up to $115,000. And a lot of people believe that Bitcoin's going to fall. No, we have too much momentum. A lot of people are going in. The ETFs are really big right now. Bitcoin's halving just happened, which means Bitcoin's inflation rate is now lower than gold's. Yes, gold's inflation rate is 1.5% a year. Bitcoin's halving has caused Bitcoin to now have only a 1% inflation rate a year. Bitcoin's supply is now having a less inflation than gold, which means Bitcoin is now scarcer, supply is lower, demand is higher, and that is an automatic increase in price. And so Bitcoin is supposed to fundamentally start going up, but we need momentum, which is why we had this stop right here. If we look back in time on Bitcoin in previous bull market pumps, you can see and start to notice the same exact things happening, which is really interesting. A lot of people miss this. A lot of people see this huge parabolic run up and miss this reaccumulation phase in the center. This reaccumulation phase was actually 31%. Let me just show what happened after we recovered. After we recovered, we didn't stop at the previous all-time high that we did at 40,000. We blew right through it, and that week we were already at 58,000. The next week we're already at 58,000. And the all-time high of Bitcoin took us, well, to this high, took us all the way to $65,000. The all-time high took us all the way up to $70,000. This reaccumulation phase really did help, but nobody remembers it because all people see is this huge parabolic run-up. But this was a 30% crash, and I'm sure people were thinking about the same thing, about how that was the top and Bitcoin's about to go down and make another bear market. No. We recovered, we went straight back up. And actually, we doubled. Here's an interesting percentage that I can show up. If we take Bitcoin from the bottom, I'm not going to calculate this pandemic crash. It was a black swan event. If I take it from the bottom at 3,000, where Bitcoin fell from 20,000 all the way down to here, take it to the top of this reaccumulation phase and down to the bottom, where we bottomed out, what's interesting is that, dragging it all the way to the end, Bitcoin almost doubled, went up the same amount as it did before the accumulation phase. it did after the accumulation phase. It went all the way up to 69,000. It passed a little bit, but it almost did the same price action as it did before and after, just much faster, which means that this accumulation phase was around the center area for Bitcoin. And after that, this is where the huge momentum spikes happen. This was the last chance for someone in this wave to buy in with and still make some money. And this is what I'm saying is happening for the same thing for Bitcoin. Right now, Bitcoin is ending in its reaccumulation phase and is starting this last leg, this parabolic run up. And of course, it's not going to be that fast, but the price gains will be really, really fast. Look, last time Bitcoin went up, its percentages in a week after this reaccumulation phase were around 18% for this week. What's the next week? Oh, it's much bigger. It was a 25% rise. And so in 3 weeks, we went up 71% compared to over here, where in 3 weeks, Bitcoin went up how much? Only 23%. This last leg passes by so quick, and so you can't miss it, but that's what people are doing. Bitcoin is about to enter this area, and after this center point, Bitcoin's about to enter such an area that's going to take us so high that nobody's going to catch it. And the question is, how high could Bitcoin go? Before I answer this question, I want to explain something really, really simple, something fundamental about Bitcoin that will make it so that people gain less and less every single time they wait for Bitcoin to go up higher and higher. Let me pull up a different chart. This is a logarithmic chart, which means that instead of looking at more price action, we're looking at more percentages for Bitcoin. And if we start from the very beginning, in 2010 of Bitcoin, we can see that the bull market that took Bitcoin from around half a cent all the way up to $30 was a 5 million% gain. That's insane. And it lasted around 600 days. After that, we had a bear market crash, which took us down 93% and lasted around 214 days. After that, we recovered, and we had the same bull market cycle, which took Bitcoin all the way up to $1,200 this time. But what's interesting is that this one was only 61,000%. After that, yes, we fell again, but this crash took us to 3,000, and it was only 86% compared to the 93 last time. After this, Bitcoin went from $170 all the way up to $20,000, the infamous $20,000 area, but it was only an 11,000% gain, and it took us a lot longer, around 1,000 days. Let me just calculate it correctly. It was 1,065 days. And after that, Bitcoin fell again, and we had an 84% crash instead of an 86, but it took longer. Again, after this, Bitcoin went up again. Bitcoin went all the way up from 3,000 all the way up to $70,000. This is last cycle, but it was only around a 2,000% gain. And it was, once again, a long and long bear market. And after this, Bitcoin fell once again. And this bear market took us down to 15,000, but it was only 76%. And it was, once again, really, really long. What's interesting, what you could see from this is that Bitcoin's percentage gains in bull markets, even though the price action is getting really, really big, it went from 3,000 to 70,000 this time compared to from half a cent to 30, the percentage difference is getting much and much and much smaller, which means the longer you wait for Bitcoin, the less percent you're going to get, because Bitcoin, to move it, will become much, much harder. What's the same point? The same thing could be said the other way. When Bitcoin's going to fall, it's going to fall less. You would used to have a bear market that's around 90%. Now we're getting barely to 75%. And so the question becomes, if Bitcoin's percentage keeps getting smaller and smaller every bull market, how far could we go? Well, if we do around 2,000%, as we did last bull market, we go up to around $325,000. But I don't think that that's a possibility. Yes, it is somewhere in percentages, but 325,000 would be extremely difficult because one of the reasons we are having less percentages every single time is because Bitcoin is getting much, much bigger, and to move it, it's becoming much tougher. Let me open up CoinMarketCap and look at Bitcoin's market cap. Here's the $20,000 area back in 2018. When Bitcoin went to $20,000, it had a market cap of 300 billion, roughly 300 billion. And when it fell back to 3,000, this was already in December of 2018, we only had a market cap at around 60 billion. We had a really big market cap decline, but we stopped at 60 billion. The next time Bitcoin went up to 70K. And this time, when we tapped out, we had a market cap of $1.3 trillion, much bigger. And when Bitcoin fell down, then we had a market cap of only 300 billion compared to the 60 billion that we had back in 2018. Bitcoin's market cap is bottoming out at much, much, much higher levels. And that means that now to move Bitcoin, it's much harder because you have to move a much bigger percentage, a much bigger amount to a different place to make a significant amount, which is why it is probably impossible. It is impossible for Bitcoin to do the same percentage gain as it did right over here back in 2011. Probably 61,000, even 11,000. Bitcoin is just simply way too big. There's not enough money to move it that much. And as soon as it reaches that level, it will sell. But that doesn't mean that the price action won't reach. It just means that the price action is now less percentage. So it's a less percentage gain. So Bitcoin essentially is becoming more stable because it's getting much bigger, because there's a much, much more people buying in. So what's a theoretical place where Bitcoin could go? I think a good place where Bitcoin could go, and I can go back to the regular chart, is $150,000. And that's for a couple of reasons. 150,000 calculated from, let's just say 15,000 would be around a 856% gain, which would be a reasonable decline from the 2,000% gain back in 2022. Of course, that's nothing mathematical. I'm just saying that's a good percentage price. But looking at some mathematics, we can start seeing a really good reason for us to go to 150,000. Number one, like I said already, this reaccumulation phase is also a bull flag, which means the target of this area take us to 115. That's the minimum, I say. Minimum of Bitcoin going is $115,000. And I think we're going to go higher. Another mathematical thing you could do is grab the Fibonacci extension, take it from the bottom of the Bitcoin at 15,000 to the top of the accumulation phase down to the bottom and see where Bitcoin could go through the Fibonacci. And what we see is a huge price action, a huge price level. The golden ratio line up with 150. The golden ratio is a really interesting number that is all around the world. In flowers, in nautilus shells, the golden ratio appears all there. It's a really cool mathematical term that for some reason appears a lot in life. A lot of things go to the golden ratio, including Bitcoin. When we fall down somewhere, I usually look at the Fibonacci retracement to see how far we're going to fall. For example, let's just calculate this right here. How far did Bitcoin fall when it went from $4,000 all the way up to 65,000? Look at this. Bitcoin fell in between the 0.5 level, so it went 50% down, to the 0.618, the golden ratio, inside of this area, which is called the golden pocket. And it fell inside of this golden pocket and went up once again. The golden pocket is something to always look for. And the golden pocket in this situation, the golden ratio in this situation is right over here, the 1.618 level at $150,000. Really big mathematical term. $150,000 is my personal takeout spot. Yes, we could go higher, but 150,000 is a really great stable line in my opinion. I could be wrong. I'm only 15, but there is some evidence backing up to my theory. Whatever is going to happen, however high Bitcoin will go, what I do know is that Bitcoin is exiting its reaccumulation phase and is starting this parabolic run up. And we can and will see a next higher high, and we will have these huge prices of excitement. And I guarantee you that people will forget that this reaccumulation phase existed, and you will have to remind them that this thing is normal in the next bull market. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video. If you like this video, don't forget to leave a like down below. It shares this video to more people. If you want to watch more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.